the laws of immigration cannot be divorced from the politics that drive their creation. In addition to Congress, the executive branch plays a significant and sometimes less understood role in making immigration law and policy. Meanwhile, the judicial branch is largely immune from serving as a check because of a long-standing and complicated concept known as plenary power, which in a nutshell interprets the Constitution to grant the political branches, the legislative branch and executive branch, power and authority over immigration matters. For those seeking permanent legal status in the U.S., the laws restrict green cards to certain categories of people. Those coming here based on employment or a relationship with the U.S. employer, those seeking to be here based on a family relationship, those seeking protection from harm or torture in their homelands, also known as refugees in the immigration law. And finally, a smaller number are able to obtain status permanently through a lottery system, which truly does function like a lottery. Now, these categories are highly restrictive, in particular the employment and in family-based categories, because of numerical quotas that are in place per the INA. So if we think about college admissions here at Penn State, imagine there being a cap on the number of students that would allowed to be in. There's a cap like that on the number of family and employment-based visas allotted per year. And there are severe backlogs in the immigration system. For family members, for example, people who are legally eligible to immigrate to the United States are waiting months, years, and sometimes decades to reunite with a family member. Under the employment category, for essential skilled workers in particular, these might include construction workers, those working in landscaping, hotel workers. There's a cap of 5,000 green cards a year for such workers. As for the refugee category, protection may be granted for certain people who can prove a well-founded fear of persecution, but the burden of proof is high, and the screening process is rigorous. An immigrant does not qualify as a refugee because of poverty or difficult economic conditions in his or her home country. These points are significant as we think about both the unauthorized population in the United States, which by recent estimates are about 11 million, and the question of why can't they just get in line? The reality is that there are very few ways or lines for the majority of unauthorized migrants to come to the U.S. legally. So who is this unauthorized immigrant population? Nationwide, they comprise of about 5.1% of the workforce. And in critical sectors like agriculture and construction, they make up 25% of the workforce. Nationwide, there are approximately 4 million U.S. citizen children with at least one unauthorized parent. A brief note about the agencies who administer immigration. The Department of Justice houses the immigration court system that's housed in a hub called the Executive Office for Immigration Review. This is a fiat of regulation, meaning that the immigration court system does not have the stature of a statute. The judges are not Article I judges with the kind of judicial independence that you might ordinarily think of when you hear the word judge. Meanwhile, the Department of Homeland Security plays a significant role when it comes to immigration enforcement and services. ICE, or Immigration and Customs Enforcement, manages enforcement on the interior, including detention, investigations, etc. CBP, or Customs Border Protection, handles enforcement at the border. It's also been merged with other federal agencies per Homeland Security Act, like Customs. Also within the Department of Homeland Security is a policy shop that handles the policy making that takes place, at least with respect to enforcement and services. As for the services sector, that acronym, yes, there's a lot of acronyms, is known as USCIS, or United States and Citizenship Immigration Services, which manages the processing of green cards, asylum applications, applications for citizenship. And keep in mind that immigration is not the only issue handled by the Department of Homeland Security. When this cabinet-level department was created, 22 federal agencies were merged.